Go.
Okay, students, today what we're going to be doing is a perm wrap on short hair. And we're both wearing a mask because, yeah, this, although it's not February 2021, we're still in the midst of our pandemic. So it's good to be safe. And I've invited a victim in here that has allowed me to do this. So the one thing that I want you to see, the first thing you're going to do when you're doing a perm is you're going to look at the hair itself. Now she's got previous perm on the end, so that's not a natural curl. That's just the curl from the perm that she had before. So, and you can see that she's got a definite, very strong circular cowlick here. Now her hair is short. We don't perm all the way down to the bottom, but you can actually see how straight her hair is. So with that curl, she's going to end up with a decent curl afterwards, but we're going to be cutting this along the nape line. Now if you look at this longer area, you can see that along the nape line, or what we call it is the happy face, is where she's longer, and that's because we're not perming underneath there. This is the type of cut that she gets. And if you recall your zero elevation haircut, everything is taken straight down along the back. I want you to see that. That's actually a straight line. But because the head curves, it travels around. So do you see that? As I bring it out here, that's a straight line. So it's a zero, the cut, into the interior on the center, just following the nape line, but right just below the occipital line. So if you know that, you're going to travel around that area when you do the cut. We're not doing the cut right now. On the sides, on the sides, I'm just going to pull this out again, tip of the ear to parietal line. See it? Even though this is like a tapered haircut on a man, the directions are the same for a woman. Parietal line, tip of the ear, follows down into the nape and then travels around the nape. That's it. The rest of the cut is held down and then brought up. So your longest point, and I'll show it to you, is going to be right at the lower ridge. You're going to have a corner. There it is, that center area. It's curled a little bit, so it's a little harder to see. And there it is again, short, short, long. It's a little curved. But this area is held out at the lower ridge so that we still get volume on the bottom. So what we're going to do to start this perm, you're going to need your perm rods. And we've already determined what type of curl we want. We're going to go the gray and pink, alternating. We're going to start at the vertex. And I do set picks on my perms. Now remember, I've told you, the vertex is where the cowlick is at. So that's simple. I'm going to separate this out. Am I going to section it? No. My comb is my section. Where the comb leaves the head here, where the comb leaves the head here, that's going to be the width that I'm going to take off. So I've got this, I'm going to bring it over. I've got this, and I'm going to bring it over. So there's my section. You can see that hair is going in this direction. And again, I'll measure it. Comb leaves the head there, comb leaves the head there, straight down at the vertex. And if I were to take it straight down, it would end up at the area behind the ear on each side. I'm just going to get my water bottle here. So I'm going to mister. Now I do pick my perms. That doesn't mean that I pick a perm. It means that I use picks on my perms. I will show you the proper wrapping method. Your subsection, just like in rollers, should not be wider than the rod. So this is your measurement here. This is a concave rod. This is a straight rod. What it is, this concave area, this center part, it's the same width as this, is all the way across. slightly elevates out. Doesn't make that much of a difference. So you don't necessarily see that elevation unless you use one of the, maybe the larger rods. But, oh, I know what I forgot. Let me get them, sorry. Here they are. My end papers. Now when you get your end papers out of your box, I'm going to take some here. When you get your end papers out of your box, hold them into your hand. Oh, like this? Down? Okay. Hold them in your hand, and you're not going to take them off one at a time, because look at this. Look at this. It's taking forever. Could I do that? Yeah. See, that'll come right off, that'll come right off. What's the simplest method? Take your comb, give it a twist, hold the bottom a little bit, give it a twist. See it? It's twisting, 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 twisting. Now it's totally separated. So you don't have to worry about taking that time to separate them. It's done for you. All right, so I'm going to put them over here. I've got everything set up. I've got my perm. I'm going to be using a K-Pack. This is Joico, one of the much, much better products. It's got human hair keratin as its protein. So we want to bring this across. Remember, we're not taking it any wider. And personally, I like to use, you want to make sure that the hair is all straight coming up, especially with shorter hair. I like to use a double flap method. So I put one on top, one on the bottom, bring it straight up, making sure that all the hair is inside the perm rod. Going to use a pink rod first. Make sure that that hair is going in evenly and not bent back. Bring it around, and then I'm going to place my band directly on top. I held it straight up, so what happens when I hold it away from its base? Yes, it's on base, maximum volume. Move that out of the way. That's given me now a line to travel down with. Get another one. This time I'm going to use a gray rod. And as I travel down to the shorter hair, I'll keep them all pink. Okay, I'm going to bring it straight up. See, it's straight up away from its base. Bring it down into its base and place the band right on top. The band goes right on top of that. Now I told you that I pick my perms. And this avoids band marks when you put your product in. You never push the band all the way to the scalp. I've seen it done. What it's going to do, when it's restructuring the hair, it will then break it at this point, especially if you have someone with fine hair. Someone with coarse resistant hair, it's going to create a definite bend in that area in the perm. So we're going to put a pick right here and a pick on this side. This is how they want you to do it for state board if you're going to pick your perm. Now on the video it's got a plastic, I don't know where they get them, but it's got a plastic that goes straight down the center and it lays flat. So it's not too bad. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this straight down, we're going to turn off the camera, and when you come back I'm going to show you how to go from the top to the side. You'll have two options there. This could either go forward or back, but I'll just show you my preference on shorter hair. So we'll be back, I'll have this finished, and we will then continue on with the sides. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, students, we're up here at the apex, or that upper ridge, above the upper ridge. There's your parietal line. This is the upper ridge, lower ridge. In this area, and you see that I did them vertically, you have an option here. You can continue on horizontally up to the end of the apex, and then you're going to take them forward. With her, this is kind of it's more of a directional perm. we put it in the direction, because it's short hair, that it makes it easier for her to manage and somewhat style it as she does her hair. So at the upper ridge, as you can see that, this is the area that we're going to take triangle bases, because what we're going to do is we're going to pivot. You would do that even if you wrapped them going forward or going back, doesn't matter. But because, let's say that we did them going forward, we know that our subsection would be one rod more. I don't, you know, because I'm coming back to it, I left it at the upper ridge as opposed to taking it up higher. So what I'm going to do with this first one, I want you to notice that I have a triangle part, wider here, narrow, closer to the back crown. So I'm going to take it up, and forgive me if you can't see with the elbows, the wrap is the same as when we did the back. I'm going to bring it straight up, all the hair is underneath, as you can see. First perm rod's going to be gray. Bring that up. Bring it over, and these were forced in this direction. Okay, now we're going to take just a scotch of hair away, move it forward, because we're pivoting back. And again, another triangle part. So it's two triangle parts, subsections rather, I'm sorry. Traveling back to the back crown and into the parietal line. Okay, alternating, and you can see that my rods. Okay, now do you see that automatically do the work for me? It's pivoting back for me because of those triangle parts. And whenever you put picks on, attach it to the previous pick, always. Okay, now we can do horizontal parts. See it? We're going to come down. Now before I finish that, now that's going to be the same as this. This will be done exactly the same way on the other side. So I would then take a triangle part, pick it up, and make sure you can see it. It's wider here, narrower on this side. And then I would sweep a little bit of that hair out of the way, because it's got to stay the same width, you see. So as you pivot around, the width is going to slightly come in a little bit on this side. So another triangle part, you can see it. Now we go down horizontally and we match with that rod. All right? So I'm going to go ahead into the back for you to see that. And we'll turn it off and then come back and you can see the finish.
Okay.
Okay, students, so you see that we came and we pivot. In other words, a pivot is you're in one spot and you go half circle into the other until we come down. So we pivot, pivot, finally, all the way around. Now, and if you were to, if I should have done them back or forward on the top of the head here, I would still have to have done the same thing on the sides. So what some people do, on the first one they use a shorter rod and they triangle shape it. And then they start going horizontally, but you'll find that you still have to pivot somewhat. And you can see that this little pivot here came a little bit off base, but it's not going to affect the curl. Now on the sides, and remember we're doing this on short hair. So I'm going to high shape this area here, and again you can see it off the part, wider here, narrow there. And I'm going to bring it up, and we're going to bring it slightly forward instead of down. And yeah, we are going to be doing something with that right there. The reason for this is when you get to the perimeter line, especially with the perm, you want to avoid splits that show up in front of the head. So now I'm going to give it a slight, this is almost like a rectangular slice again, leaving that alone. And coming down as far as we can. Now if you find that your papers are sticking, wet your fingers. There you go. You can just grab the papers. Just need to wet your fingers a little bit. That doesn't mean that you don't separate them still. Still have to separate them. You don't want to be fighting with those papers. And they're called end papers, by the way. The end papers, which are the beginning of a new look. Okay? Now, you notice that now that this becomes more narrow. So this area here, as it traveled back, was just a little wider. And that's how you correct some of that. But because I also don't want any splits, I'm taking it, whoops, and that happens. You've got to make sure that your hair is wet. If it's not wet, it's not going to stick to the end papers and hold that hair in there. It could easily slide out. I'm going to force it in there though. There you go, it caught. And it'll stay. If you have it in there correctly, it will stay. You can see that. Now I'm just going to come here. We don't necessarily want this area curled, but we do want this area curled. And when you get really short hair, I got to tell you, it does take practice. You notice I pull that hair out. Okay, I'm going to lay one there, lay the other one on top, make sure that my index finger and my ring and my middle finger are holding that. I'm going to mist it a bit, and I'm using a pink rod because it's smaller. Attach it there, and then it just brings it right on in. And that takes practice. And is it a little separated? Yes, it's a little separated. Not going to worry too much about it because we're doing a directional. Now, as I told you about this hair up front, we're going to use a short rod and we're going to bring it forward. And I'm going to use a short pink one. Again, I hope you can see what I'm doing. As you can see, got that hair in there, missed it a bit. Get one of my short ones here. You could use a long one if you have to, but for convenience, and I'm going to come around this way for you to see it, and I'm going to be going back over, so I'm going to try and we're adjusting the camera for you to see it, but I wanted to make sure that it was in there. As you can see, put the pick and slide it into the other one to protect it. And you know, students, I usually, when I'm doing a perm, I usually just use one pick across. But I want you to practice this because if you're going to use picks, this is how State Board wants you to do it. It's definitely put them on the side to do that. Now, the other side, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start from the top. Remember, this went in this direction. I'm going to start from that top area and I'm going to come back around. That's what I mean about a directional perm. We're putting it in the direction so that she can comb it. This went over in this direction because it's opposite of her cowlick. So when it's opposite, the cowlick was growing in this direction. We took it over the other way so that it covers that cowlick. This area here lays flatter, grows in that direction. You can see that it lays flatter. Now we bring it over and it lays higher. I hope that you can see it. Let me bring her around, shift her head over just a bit. Now watch this. That's laying nice and flat. See it? So we're going against the growth. Now, normally, yeah, could I bring these rods and bring them all forward? Yes. But what we're trying to do with her is create maximum volume. So you can take these in almost any direction that you would take a roller if you were doing a set to keep the look good for her. So you can see that. See that hair just slightly come up right there because it's going in the opposite direction of its natural growth. So I'm going to take these now, I'm going to bring them over and then bring it straight down, and we'll be back and I'll show you the result in a minute.
Go.
Okay, students, so as you can see, we've left some hair out, and this is deliberate because this is just going to be a slight fringing when we cut it. Definitely left the back nape out, and again, we're going to be cutting this short, and then the other side's the same. The one thing that I want you to take note of is that because of these rods and the pivoting, on this side, we did some horizontal, we did do a little bit of triangle parting, but they did come out horizontally. We did the triangle parting to do what? Prevent the splits as we went up, as we came down in this area, because we did have to do them horizontally. Whereas on the other side, we did a slight diagonal. You can see that that's not straight down. Comes down to the temporal area, and then we have our last one there. So with your perm, now what you're going to do is you're going to get your cotton. You want to make sure that it covers around the head form. To protect her, when you saturate, when you put the perm solution on, and then you want to take your perm, where did I put it?
Behind.
Oh, here. You want to take your perm bottle, and the best way, you can cut it if you want. The only thing on cutting it is sometimes it tends to slant it a bit, and it comes out at an angle. Whereas if you just get a pin, get to the very center of it, put that in there, give it a turn, you're turning it, and you bring it out. Now, I've got a shampoo bowl right here in front of me. So what I do is I squeeze it once out into the shampoo bowl. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to squeeze it once into the towel. And you can see that that shoots out nice and straight. All right, you always start at the top and travel down. Do not soak them. I can't stress that enough, that you do not soak the rods. Whether it's long hair, short hair, you apply lightly and then reapply. If the cotton gets wet, you're wasting product. You're not perming the cotton, you're perming the hair. The reason that you just slightly saturate is because you're going to first apply at the most resistant area, in other words, the new hair. It will seep in, the hair is porous. It will seep into the ends, whether you have long hair or short hair. Once you see it start dripping, it has gone all the way inside. If you constantly go like this on one rod, where you're putting product on one rod, you're soaking it. It's really not good to do that, because as it soaks into the center of the rod, the ends, which are the weakest. So then your ends are almost going to be overdone. You want this to be equally saturated. I see that so much, and it makes me crazy, because I know that it should not be done that way. Your bottle has a soft spot. See that bubble? And so I'm going to take it, I'm going to turn it at this angle, and then I'm going to bring it around, and I'm going to just lightly saturate. Just one. Now where you have a hard time with this is when you have a spiral perm, because you need to remember which one you saturated last. Now I've seen people do this. Okay, well, you can, but still do it lightly. All right, I'm going to bring her around, and just gently. You see that that is not dripping, it's not coming off. Because I'm close to her face, I'm going to pull the towel over, start at the top, and just one stroke across. And you should actually end up with leftover product on this short of hair. On really long hair, you might need 2 bottles. You should not with this length hair. It's really enough product. And I'm going to come up to the top. Now I'm going to wait just 30 seconds or so. Wait a little bit. And you see she's not dripping. And I've still got a good half bottle left. Some of them are clear that you can see how much you have left. But this is Joico, it's a good line. This is an alkaline perm. You determine what you want with her. Different clients require different strengths. We're perming new hair at the scalp. We've got previous perm on the ends. So you want to make sure. So again, exact same procedure. And you see just a slight drip right there, and that's more because of the paper or the end paper. And see, I'm just squeezing on each one. When you have previously colored hair and you're doing this, remember it's already been damaged. You don't need to damage it more by putting a whole lot of product on it. I don't want to accidentally get this on her face. So this is just protecting her. And again, it's only dripping on the paper. It's not necessarily, I'm going to pull that paper up to make sure I get the hair. Again, I'm going to pull that over, protect her face. So I'm a little less than halfway, I can feel it. So I'm going to apply one more time. She's still not dripping, as you can see. It's going into the hair. I had a student one time that had applied and the cotton was soaked. So I showed him this method and he says, well, it won't take unless you put a whole lot on it. It's taking, it's soaking in, the hair is porous. All right, with really long hair, you might mist it once before you apply. Wait a few minutes after you mist it because you want that to soak in so that the ends are uniformly wet or moist. So you have uniform moisture throughout. So remember the porosity, ability of the hair to absorb moisture. So if the ends are a lot more porous, they're going to hold that moisture, they're going to absorb it. We don't want them diluted down. We don't want that water to dilute down your product. That's why you only mist. You don't saturate. I mean, you know, with a lot of water, and you also don't soak them with this. So I'm going to do it one more time, and you'll see now she's starting to drip. And you can see these little drips coming down. So that tells me this is the last time I'm going to apply. Because she's no longer and sometimes, yeah, I'll do a couple strokes like that. But now the hair is definitely starting to drip. Get some in the front here, again protecting her head. But you can possibly see some of those little drips coming down. That says, see, you can see them coming down. She's full. Her hair is full. We don't need to use the whole bottle. And I've got to share with you, I had a friend of mine one time, I'm watching her do a perm on a lady that's got baby fine hair, and then I see her open up another box and apply, and I'm thinking, what are you doing? I said nothing. But you don't have to do that. You want good results. The perm is going to be there. It's going to stay there. All right, once you're done applying and it's dripping, perms usually come with a little plastic baggie, like this. You're not going to put it on over her head. You're gonna hold it backwards, and you get a snugger fit this way. See how it's nice and tight on there? Now her own natural heat is gonna take care of that. So what we're gonna do in 15 minutes, I'm going to rinse her. Once I rinse her and I towel blot her, then we're gonna bring her back so I can show you how to neutralize. In other words, lock that curl in. What the perm is doing now, it's opening up the hair shaft, the cuticle layer, penetrating down into the cortex, just like your arm, it's breaking it. It's reshaping it. If you have a broken arm, it's never going to be the same. So once this is broken, it's broken to form itself around the perm rod. We're going to rinse it for full 5 minutes, or 2 songs if you're listening to music and you don't have a timer on. You're going to dry it, you're going to wrap her up with a towel, and you're going to squeeze the towel around her. Once you feel that you've gotten most of the moisture out, then you're going to get paper towels and towel blot. You want to draw as much of that moisture out as possible. Remember, we've just put water in there. I've told you about the porosity in the hair. We don't want that porosity to slow down or undo what the neutralizer is going to do. What the neutralizer does is it rehardens the hair. Doesn't make it neutral, rehardens it. Neutralizer has hydrogen peroxide in it. So if you have water in there, H2O and H2O2, you're going to weaken the H2O2. It's the same chemistry, just another level of oxygen. We need the oxidation to close the cuticle. They should wait, some people say 7 days, but really, if you did a good perm, 24 to 48 hours before they shampoo. And you want to rinse after the neutralizer, a decent amount of time, and then you could take the rods out after, you could take them out before. What I usually do is I will neutralize, and then some people will rinse, and then take the rods out. What I do is I leave the rods in after I neutralize, take them out, and then rinse, because then we have the natural curl that we want. If you fill it up with water, which you can, now it's not wrong, but you'll see the difference. If you fill it up with water by rinsing it first, and then taking the rods out, it's weighted with that water. Plus, you have to take the time again to blot it out. The neutralizer locks that curl in. So leaving it in for just that little bit longer is not going to harm it. And you see the natural curl, and then you're going to rinse again. Instructions, manufacturer's directions state to rinse for 5 minutes. I usually rinse 2 to 3 minutes, max, because again, H2O, H2O2. I want a good solid perm. Now this is on short hair. On longer hair, I'm going to rinse a little bit longer. The one thing that I forgot to state about after you rinse off the perm solution, you want to make sure that, to get underneath it really well, especially in this area. We tend to stay up here. You want to take your hose and make sure that you bring it down to the bottom. And you'll do that, just no different than shampooing and bringing it down. So immediately after you start it, like, okay, she's starting now, and I immediately looked at my clock. After a while, you learn to, you could either set a timer, and I usually just look at the clock and I've been doing this a long time. So until you become experienced enough, don't. All right, so we're gonna wait about 15 minutes. I wanna check her in about 10 to see how she's doing, and I'll have our cameraman come back in so you can see what I'm looking for when we do that. So for now, cut.
Okay.
Okay, students, so now it's time for us to check our perm to see, we call it how she's cooking. So I'm going to turn her around. I'm going to turn her around, I'm going to take these out, and we're going to check this one here. So you notice that the band is on top, so there's no indentation close to the scalp. I'm going to bring it out, and I'm going to use my 2 fingers and just do a half turn in place. And what you're going to see with the shorter hair, it's harder, but it's going to form a little bit of a backward C or a forward C, but either way. And then on the bottom, it's going to form like an S pattern. That tells you that she's ready. Just to make sure that we get a real good ridge on that, I'm going to leave it on for just about 1 more minute. And I'm going to leave it on without the cap. What happens when you do this, remember I shared with you that the neutralizer had H2O2, it had hydrogen peroxide in it. What we want to do by leaving the cap off for just about a minute, we want to see if the oxygen in the air is going to kind of start neutralizing it. In other words, just the air itself is going to start locking that curl in. So you saw the size of that curl. In a little bit I'm going to open this one up so that you can see that it's going to now have a slight ridge to it. So, and your clients, this is what your clients do. You see, when you're busy, they get busy on their phones. It's okay. I told her I was going to tease her about that. So anyways, I'm going to take these out, and I'll be putting them back in, so I can see, did that 1 minute, did that length of time make a difference from this one to this one? Are we going to now start seeing a ridge in there? If that ridge is in there, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to then lay her back. I'm going to rinse her for a full 5. There's no reason for you to watch me rinse her. But I'm going to rinse every rod. It's just going to keep going round and round and rinse it for a full 5 minutes. So let's see. Now I'm going to turn this. Now see how it's automatically doing it for me. I didn't have to bend it. Nothing. It's all right there. So she's got a nice curl right now. So it just automatically roll it back in place, and it does it for me. So she's doing well with this. Now, some of the questions you need to ask, like, she's got to have a particular surgery done. So she's on, are you on meds? Okay, so she's on certain medications. These are things as well that could stall the process of a perm. So these are things that you need to know. On your chemical card, you're going to write it down. That she is on certain medications, you might need to take a little bit longer. The reason for that is if you have other clients coming in, because you've got to schedule your time for the services that you're going to be doing. So with her, we know that we need to, just make sure and watch for that. Another thing you need to watch, what type of medications is she on? Is it something that could cause a chemical reaction? So this is knowledge that this is where, like a strand test, in other words, you would just do one perm rod on a spot that she's not going to see how long it's going to take, to see what's going to happen with it, if you're concerned. Otherwise, it's very seldom that you have problems with perms. I've shared with you some of my situations that I've been through with chemicals. So it is a chemical, and this is a person. And there does happen to be a chemical reaction with medication and chemicals that you use. So I'm going to go ahead and rinse her. We'll be back. You'll see me do the final towel blotting with paper towels. I'll show you what I did with the towels, but then I will show you then again with paper towels and what we're looking for. So again, we'll see you back in just a minute. Okay, so now we've rinsed her, and this is what you do at the shampoo bowl. You get your towel and you just gently press each one as you go around. I took the other towel off because it was wet from rinsing. I'm going to put this one on now on the bottom. I'm going to take this wet cotton off. I'm gonna put some fresh cotton on. And then what I got these brown paper towels because I want you to see what I'm looking for. So I'm going to now use paper towels, and you can see that there's very little moisture coming off. And that's what you want. It takes a while. If they have really long hair, it's not uncommon to put them under the dryer for a little bit. And then towel blot it again to draw that moisture from the inside out. Sorry. But you see she's got very little moisture coming out. So we're good again now with the neutralizer. Remember, the neutralizer is going to lock it in. Again, I put thumbtack in there. I'm going to check it. Yep, it's coming out straight. Same thing. Saturate, saturate. Now this time it's going to drip faster because the hair is moist. And I'm just going around, and you'll see it drip right away. Still use a minimum of 3/4 of the bottle. You don't want to soak your cotton, but it's okay for you to get the cotton wet. Now remember before, we waited about a minute. Remember, this has H2O2 in it, hydrogen peroxide, to lock it in. Water is H2O, so it's got water in it. We want to get that water to where it's got more oxygen in it. So still, she's already dripping. And you can see it dripping. But still, her cotton isn't being soaked with it because it's going inside. Now you want to wait a full 5 minutes before you rinse. Manufacturer's directions say to rinse. I usually take the rods out and then rinse. Leave that in there just a little bit longer. It's not going to hurt anything, but you can see it dripping. So we know that it's full. We know that it's pretty much kind of the same formula. I've got about half of it left, a little less than half left. So we're going to wait 5 minutes, and then we'll have our cameraman come back, and you'll see me take them off, start taking them off. I'll show you how. And I'm not going to show you how I rinse it again, but I'll show you how the curl is in there. And then we're going to do a real quick cut on her, and this video is going to include the cut, but I'm going to do it quickly because she's got another appointment that she's really got to go to. So it's just a short haircut, but you're going to get some information from it. All right, so we'll see you in about 3 minutes now.
Go.
Okay, so you can see that I took some of the picks out, and I'm holding them as I do it. So don't just take one out and set it down. Take as many out as you can. So we've neutralized. I want to put them to the side because I do need to sanitize them. Even though they've been on a chemical, they really should be just naturally sanitized because it's got hydrogen peroxide in it. We know that, but it's just at least rinse them off, clean them up with soapy water. Now normally what they want you to do on the instructions is to rinse this. I don't want to fill it up with water again just yet. So the proper way to take off perm rods, you unlatch it, bring it out in place, and you can see that curl in there now. Perm rod goes on one hand, end paper goes on the other. Go to the next perm rod. Perm rod goes on one hand, end paper goes on the other, and you can see that curl. And she's curled all the way up. But see how it just kind of lays down a bit because it's wet. So for me to fill it with water, I don't want to loosen that curl in there. I want it to stay strong. So I'm going to set these aside, put the end papers in the trash. Once your hand gets full, just do it. Do not take it out with the end papers and put it down. You're just making work for yourself for later. So you want to take, you see how I'm holding them? And holding the end paper in the other hand. Kind of unwrapping it opposite of how you put them in. You start from the bottom and you go up. With longer hair, if you start from the top, you're going to have that curled hair on top of the curls that you're trying to take out. You always start from the bottom, and then you go up. Let's see, just hold on to the end. Put it in there. And it can be a pretty quick process. Separate the end papers. And you'll notice that even with the neutralizer, the cotton is not wet. The cotton gets wet when I rinse. And I'm going to take that cotton out before I rinse. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take this perm off. I'm going to rinse it for about 2 minutes. And then I'm going to bring her back up. And then we're going to do the cut. The cut you're going to see from start to finish. I'm going to do it quickly. And then explain everything that I'm doing, of course. But you'll see this cut again, surprisingly enough, on a man's haircut. The lines are the same. Even though this is very feminine for her, but you just change certain lengths and lines. The cut stays the same. It does not change. So you can see where she's got some very nice curl, and it's a soft curl all the way to the ends. You see that? That's perfect circle right there, all the way to the ends. So now I'm going to finish taking these off. We're going to turn this off, and then we'll just get our cameraman to come back in about 3 minutes again, and I'll start the haircut. I'll show you before I rinse her. I will take the cotton off. I'll lay her back first though, because this is still dripping just a bit. So as it drips, I don't want it to drip into her face. So I'm not taking the cotton off till I lay her back at the shampoo bowl to rinse the perm out. And remember, I've told you students, always keep a towel on your apron strap so you can dry your hands with that, or you can dry your tools with it, dry your shear with it when you're cutting. So I'm going to turn her around, I'm going to lay her back. Remember that the back of the drape always goes behind the chair. These towels are going to get wet. I'll be changing her towels when we set her back up, possibly a clean drape as well. So you'll see a different color drape on her in just a few minutes. All right, so we'll see you in a little bit.
Go.
Okay, students, you see that nice curl we've got? And you see the difference. Now this is what I want to show you. You can't see that cowlick anymore. And because it's short, the direction just looks the same. It doesn't look different. Now along the front, even though we did horizontal, you still see just a nice clean line right there. And on this side, we did it slightly diagonal, and again, a nice clean line. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just cut her real quick. This isn't going to take long because I know where I'm at and I know where I'm going. So I'm going to shift her head forward. I know exactly where that nape line is at. So I'm going to take and I'm going to draw this hair at the perimeter line up, and I'm going to travel around it just like I would a zero, side to center, side to center. Follow that nape line, and you see the angle shift on my fingers as I travel, and the head form itself is helping me. Bring her over to the other side, side to center, side to center. And see, once you know the cut, you'll have no problem doing it. See, there's my guide, there's that last long piece, and primary position. Now, I want to make this shorter, and this is where you're going to learn. You're going to hold the comb flat to the head, scissor over comb, bring it up, comb it down. Same angle, but I'm midway now. I'm not taking it all the way. I'm taking it midway. See, I'm right in the middle. Scissor over comb and traveling around. Holding it, how do I determine? The hair on top is my guide, and you can see it. This hair is my guide. So now I've traveled here, here. Now this hair will then be my guide for the perimeter line. So as I travel down, like I said, this is going to be fast. Now, do you see where she grows up in that area? See how that hair is sticking out? I'm going to go through. Now she lays down a little better. Go underneath it if it's too high, and the hair on top now conceals that. I'm going to travel over to this side. This side grows in this direction. That's why we identify that area behind the ear, right here. So again, at the skin, just kind of bring it down. I'm going to bring the hair over and just follow that hairline slightly. I want this to be soft. I don't want a hard line right there. I don't want it to look like I cut it straight across. So I'm just going to point cut it to keep it soft. And I'm combing it in the direction, what? That it grows. Because it's going to fall in that direction anyways. The side that's going to give me problems is this one that grows straight up. So I'm going to follow the hairline, and that's going to clean it up a bit. And just kind of comb it back, point cut it across, up to this area where the hair grows straight up, and just taking little snips of it. Now on the top, we're going to go front to back because we still want volume. When you take it front to back, you get hard lines. And all we're taking off is about a ½ inch. If I take it side to side, it won't lay down the same way. It won't create the volume. It actually does lay down and becomes lazy. We don't want lazy hair. There's my guide. I'm looking for it. I'm not just cutting. I told you this was going to be quick. So it's taking me less time to cut it because I know the cut now. Now you see the volume she's getting. That's because I cut it front to back. Now this side I'm going to cut a little bit less, but I'm going to show you the difference. Now she just got a fresh perm, so she's going to have some volume, but you see those automatically just lay right back down again? Now, I want you to see the difference. This, nice volume. This comes down. This stands straight up. And this is relaxing down a bit. You may or may not be able to see it. I hope that you can, but you can see where that's traveling down. Now I'm going to match it to the other side. So it didn't cut very much off. And see how it stays up. Look at that, it stays up, where when I was cutting it before, it would just automatically lay back down. All right, so, and the wall to the parietal line, this is the 180 that I'm doing on her. So right now at the parietal line, that's actually straight across. Longest point is going to be the parietal line as I travel around it. Holding it horizontal or following now along the parietal line, following the parietal line, and slicing it in the parietal line direction. Now once we've done this, I showed you I'm going to part it off at the flat part of the head. I've already got the top done, so parietal line is done. Parietal line, tip of the ear, bring it straight out, cut it at a diagonal. There, now it's going to lay back real nice. I am going to take this off for just a second because what I want to do is clean this up. And I'm traveling now. See, there's the tip of the ear. Now I'm midway there. Take that off. And you see how that flares out real nice. Same diagonal line, but that natural fall, shorter moves longer. I'm going to move the ear forward and gently travel around the hairline. I'm going to travel up to the tip of the ear, move the ear back, and again travel down. Always making sure to brace. I see so many videos out there where they're cutting. There could be a fly, they could sneeze, and you're going to create some damage. Always brace, especially when you're cutting along the skin. So you see this nice little finish that it gives by taking it diagonally, holding it up midway, and then just bring it down to take care of that. And that's it. I'm going to take a little bit right here. All right, the other side, same way. Okay, I'm just going to put that down for now. Try not to breathe. This is the pandemic. So I'm going to hold my arm up, students, so you can see parietal line, tip of the ear, and I'm just taking, I know about how much length I want to take off. I'm not going close to the scalp. Just taking off right at about a 1/2 inch. And again, you see how that lays down. All right, so then I'm going to there you go. I'm going to bring this over, bring this forward, and just point cut into it. And again, bracing as I do it. All right, and then I'm going to comb this in, go around it. Now I'm going to bring this out. All I want is that corner. This hair traveled here, this hair traveled up, so I'm going to have a corner. There it is. And I'm going to travel around the head form, this time vertically with the cut. Now, how many of you think you can diagram this cut now with these directions? Oops, sorry, ma'am. Sorry, ma'am. So we want to get this done quickly for her. Because like I said, she's got to take off on me here in a minute. So I want to get this done. I'm going to tilt her forward because I have another little corner right there. And when you hold the hair out, you're always going to have a corner at the nape line. Okay, but you can see how nice that is. Now the frontal area. This front area, I'm going to take it parietal line to parietal line. I'm going to pull it out to the center, just like the graduated cut. I'm going to take that corner off, and now she will come over real nice. And keep in mind that our perm rods came in that direction. That's why we call it a directional wrap. All right, I'm going to put a little bit of oil in her hair, and that's just because she's just had a chemical. I'm using the Paul Mitchell oil, and it's actually using the Paul Mitchell container. It's the Chi oil in there. And what that does is if there's anything that's a little rough, it takes care of it. I'm going to use my small round brush, start at the top, sorry, moving the camera here. I'm going to start at the top, center crown, and just take it back. Always use your whole arm when you're blow drying. You don't want to do this unless you want carpal tunnel. Your wrist can only take so much. Okay, now I want to curl it. Hold it. Let it cool. And you see that nice, soft movement. Bring this down. And you'll always see me use my full arm. If you want to have nice, strong arms, you want to make sure to do that. And look at my blow dryers helping me move the hair out of the way. And see how soft that is. They're not frizzy. It's soft, it's nice. I'm going to switch hands now. And I've got low air, high heat, low air. I don't need that. We need the heat from it to heat up the brush. The brush is hot, so the brush will help dry the hair inside. And you see that that's taking it quite well. Again, a little bit on the bottom here. And then we're going to work on the top. Bring in that back. And you see that that cowlick is totally, you can't see it. And that has a lot to do with the directional wrap that we just did. Now we're going up to we're making that go back just up to the apex. And then we're going to give her a side part. So how long did this blow drying take? It didn't take more than 5 minutes. We're going to take her off to the side there. A little bit of a diagonal. And now she's got a lot of really nice natural volume. And I'm doing this quickly. There we go. Get a really nice look about it. Take this off in the side part, side bang. Oh, it's underneath. There we go. All right. Let it cool. Bring it out, and you see how soft that is. I want this down a bit, warm it up, let it cool. There you go. You can't see any splits. It's just laying really, really nice for her. You get that hair off. And you can see that it's just, this hair has now been permed. And you really can't tell. It's just as soft, it's nice with that little bit of oil. Watched every minute of it, and now you can definitely see that nape line right there. She's got the fullness at the occipital where she needs it. She's got the softness on the side. She's got this nice half bang and no splits. It just looks good. Thanks, students. We've got to get her out of here. Bye.
Thank you.